Doesn't matter anymore.
Good morning, and welcome to another exciting episode of the hottest show on online radio, The Outsiders. I'm your host, Sean Sims, and I'm with my co-host superstar, Doc Cheatham.
Good morning to everyone, and happy Mama's Day, folks, this weekend.
Happy Mother's Day to all. Mother's Day is here. Well, it'll be the next day, Sunday. And who else is hot other than the Outsiders and this show? The O's, the Orioles. I've got my Orioles, for my viewers on YouTube, I've got my Orioles cap on. I've got the orange on. Doc, how are you feeling about the O's?
I'm cautiously optimistic. Just hoping that the pitching will hold up, that they won't be using the release pitches more than they should, because you gotta get at least 3 or 4 good starters that can give you 6 innings. You don't want to wear out. We have some good relievers now. Mm-hmm. We got one guy, he doesn't have any hits or runs against him so far. And of course, this big guy, they call the big guy the mountain.
The Beast.
The Beast, yeah. Mm-hmm. We got an interesting team. I wish I could say a little more brothers, or how would I put it, folks with color. But baseball basically has gone in the wrong direction when it comes to African Americans playing baseball. But that's because our athletic leadership throughout Baltimore and throughout the United States, we have not put emphasis on baseball, everything but that. And I really don't understand these athletic directors. You're not going to have 20 years of playing football. You're not going to have 20 years of playing basketball. You might get 20 years or 15 years playing baseball. You know, we're going in the wrong direction. We're not teaching our kids where will they play, and they can have a history of retiring playing a sport. It's more than likely going to be baseball. Those other sports, you're going to retire after at least 10 years.
Well, baseball, I played baseball. I did some pitching. I did some good work there a little bit. And Doc, he played baseball, and I encourage it. You're right. I mean, it seems to be in our community, basketball. I mean, football too, but baseball is kind of like, I don't know, not looked at quite the same way. Put on that pedestal like basketball. No, baseball is great, and they make a lot of money too, the pros.
Well, the sad thing is, you know, when you actually look at basketball, folks, I say, look at it realistically. What is your chances of making a basketball team? Slim to none.
In the pros?
Yeah, slim to none.
NBA,
There's too many people trying to make it. You know, there are great players out there. You know, I think we're seeing one of the best playoffs for some old folks. I'm talking about Golden State and the Lakers. I'm kind of like it. I'm seeing the young guys and the older guys battling against each other. But you have a good likelihood, if you play baseball, you might be able to play longer and make more money. Football, yes, you're going to make money quick. But guess what?
It won't last long.
Yeah, after 10 years, you're going to be finished.
It was that average NFL player is, 4 years or something. But we're going to move on past the sports, because the O's are hot and we're loving it, and we're going to keep it going.
Let's go O's!
Let's go O's! And we will be giving you the inside information on why Shantay Jackson got canned. Is resigning. Wink, wink. The Outsiders are going to give it to you straight with no chaser. So stay tuned. Later in the show, we will get to Shantay, the soon-to-be former director of MONSE. Also, we will also be discussing the Biden effect. President Biden seems to have a propensity for saying a certain word, and I think this is going to get him. His numbers are going to get him in some problems, some trouble, possible spiraling downfall. But that'll be another issue we'll touch on, and we will be briefly covering this Bud Light boycott. Just for a few minutes, I want to go over that later in the show, because we have a loaded show today. Our in-studio guest, Marlo Hargrove, is a little under the weather, kind of like the same way you were last week, Doc.
I was a lot under the weather.
Yeah, he's a little under the weather. So Marlo, we were going to do the call. He's going to come in first in the call, but we're going to have him on at another venture in the show. And if I didn't say it once, I said it twice, 3 times, and I've continued to say that our Barracuda of the month, for the month of February, Sonia Santelises, the Dr. Mengele of the Baltimore City School System, should be fired, and fired post-haste, ASAP. We have been saying this since October of last year on The Outsiders. Doc, I know you've been saying this for quite some time.
It will be 3 years this June coming up. It will be 3 years myself and about a dozen other education activists stood on these steps of the Baltimore City Public School System. We presented her a document asking for her to respond to 20 questions because we felt that she was doing our children a great disservice. And she refused to answer. So it was 3 years ago. I know a lot of folks are now getting on the bandwagon, but I don't know anyone that came out as early as we did, but we did it as a result of a documented report on what she had done and not done. And we said this 3 years ago. No, you're not mishearing me. We said this 3 years ago on the steps of the Baltimore City Public School System.
Well, you and others have been calling for her resignation, for her to be fired. The school system is a travesty, and the children and their parents are consistently and daily disrespected by this terribly poor performance by the city school CEO. And this CEO, that's what her title is. I believe it should stand for crap education officer, because that's what's going on. And only an idiot would want to keep Santelises and to run cover for her and blame COVID is just plain stupid. Her numbers, the students' numbers, okay, were anemic prior to COVID. And frankly, I'm sick and tired of inept failures using COVID to hide behind. So she should be the one fired next. I believe she should be the next one.
I think, we got to paint with a broad brush. We have to put responsibility also on the mayor, the members of the city council, and I want to brush it a little bit longer. I want to say that our state senators and delegates, all of you can see and hear what's happening, that our children are failing in just about every area you can imagine. And very few of any of you are saying anything. So you're going along to get along while our children fail. But guess what? In every area that you hear me bring up, if I have problems with the administration, guess what? The people directly making decisions aren't involved in it. When it comes to crime, when it comes to food deserts, when it comes to education, most of these folks don't have, if not all of them, don't have any children in the Baltimore City school system. So they don't give a damn about our children. Same thing with food deserts. They don't live in a food desert. Mm-hmm. Same thing with early voting. You don't care about things that don't affect you. And that's where all these elected officials, I'm going to say bar none. I don't give any of them a pass. I'm saying bar none. None of these elected officials need to be reelected. None of them.
Well, here is a former elected official, the former mayor of Baltimore, and Sheila Dixon. She's She's getting it almost right with this interview. Roc, could you cut one, please?
We're mayor right now. What's the first thing you would do with the school system?
If I were mayor right now, the first thing I would do with the school system would be to bring in all of the various unions, the administration, sit down at a table and ask some hard questions. Baltimore City provides funding to Baltimore City schools. We have a responsibility to make the schools accountable. It's important. Accountability is also just as important. We can't keep putting money into a bad system and not have accountability and show results.
Current Mayor Brandon Scott strongly supports Dr. Santelises, but Dixon says the results are not there. It's time for her to go.
I think there needs to be some changes in leadership because of all the challenges and the results that we're seeing in the schools.
With 569,000 residents, Baltimore's population is down 50,000 since 2010. And according to Dixon, the reason people are leaving is simple.
People can say it's because of crime, but the biggest thing is because of education. People want the best education for their children.
Well, I'm going to say this. That was Chris Papps, Fox. I've done my own homework and my own forum. I have plenty of people in contacts, and I asked them a question. What is the number one reason people are leaving Baltimore City? And the number one answer was crime and murder. And it was number one with a bullet. I mean, there was no pun intended. I'm going to read something real quick, Doc. A few things I want you to comment. This is a Fox article. Just this week, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost talked with a mother who has moved her son out of Baltimore City due to the increase in violence. Okay. Next, Dr. Darius Arani, Towson University's Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Applied Research, said many households are leaving the city if they can, going to Randallstown, Hagerstown, as far as they can get to look for a safe means lower murder, lower crime rate, a safe place to raise their kids in a great area to also make sure they have access to great public schools. So public schools is important, but crime. In a Baltimore Sun article, this is January 7, 2022, headline, killing of La Scala manager leaves Baltimore's Little Italy grieving and on edge as rising violence delivers gut punch. Mark Orendorf's family has been in Little Italy for 100 years. It's a century, folks. Now, the 41-year-old who works for the city and his wife, Giselle, say they are contemplating leaving Baltimore because of what? Because of the violence. You can go on this YouTube video, which just came out 2 days ago, and it's called, and you can look it up, it's called 10 Reasons Nobody Wants to Move to Baltimore. It also includes the reasons people are leaving, and the number one reason is crime, period. When you do an interview and tell the residents of Baltimore City, and I don't care who you are, and you tell the residents of Baltimore City and surrounding counties that the number one reason people are leaving is because of the school system, because of education, I think this is disingenuous, because that is not the reason. Education, that is important, very important. You want your kids to have the top education you possibly can get them, and the Dr. Mengele of the Baltimore school system, Sonia Santelises, needs to go. Doc, what do you think of this?
Well, I have a different outlook on it. I agree that crime and violence is number one. I don't know where people get any other idea. Crime and violence is number one. I hear it every day, and I'm in the streets every day. But here's what I'm going to say. I think one of our greatest failures is you don't hear that our major institutions, our colleges and community colleges, are doing extremely bad. Matter of fact, you kind of get the feeling that they're doing relatively well. Why are we able to send children who are failing to these institutions? You know, you look at Compton, you look at Morgan, you look at Loyola, you look at Towson, you look at Johns Hopkins, you look at UMBC. If all of these schools are doing well around us, the problem's got to be within the school system. And I'm saying I think that's one of the things that our elected leadership, federal, state, and city, they do not see, at least from my vantage point, the positive relationship that can come from us getting actively involved with our colleges and universities. We have a number of them here in our particular area. And I'm saying there needs to be a better working relationship between the Baltimore City school system and these colleges and universities that are doing it relatively well.
I believe that you're correct, Doc. I mean, I concur. The education system, the colleges, what you're saying is right on point, and you know, more people need to look into that. That's why I have as my co-host Superstar Doc Cheatham, because I'm a straight shooter, Doc's a straight shooter, and we give an analysis that looks deeper, and we're not two-dimensional thinkers. We're three-dimensional thinkers. Both of us Coppenites. Go Coppin.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Coppin Eagles.
So we're here to give you information. I like to think that we're entertaining you as well and giving you good, vital information with an analysis you just don't get anywhere else. And speaking of which, let's get into this interview by BGE sponsor WBAL, WD-40 the Nutcracker, and I mean C4, I mean Clarence, and Bryan, with BGE backdoor buddy and Baltimore resident backstabber Slim Shady, Brandon Scott. Roc, you don't have that one. I have this one. I have this one, Roc, so you don't have to worry about playing it. I'm going to play this because people need to hear, you know, this interview, and Doc, we're going to comment on this.
It's not just in the citizens of Baltimore region. Joining us right now is the mayor of the city of Baltimore, Baltimore City Mayor.
Do that again. Sorry, folks, it's coming up. Okay, here we go. This is the interview, and take a close listen to this, folks.
It's not just in the citizens of Baltimore region. Joining us right now is the mayor of the city of Baltimore, Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott. Always great to speak with you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor. Bryan, glad to be back, gentlemen. I think there are people, that you and Ryan know that this is why the things that I've been saying with you guys, it made sense. When you heard folks and the folks like the folks they're going to have coming on, like Project Memo, Brother Project Memo, well, this is why we have to do that, right? Because right now, as we're talking in the city of Baltimore, we have a 20% reduction in homicides, a 13% reduction in non-fatal shootings. Down. So last night at the city council meeting, Deputy Commissioner said that the closing rate was at 13%, and then later they came back and corrected it, at least to the Baltimore Banner, saying the number was at 40%. That's a huge difference, right? I mean, that's a monumental difference between 40% and 13%. Do you know what the number is, and are you at all concerned that we have this, you know, chasm of, well, we say one thing to the city council, and then a few minutes later we say something else? Like, are you satisfied with that kind of communication that we're getting from the police department? Well, it was just a mistake.
Well, yeah, right. It was just a mistake. Here's the thing. They had the mayor of a major city, and that's our city, Baltimore. So you have the mayor of a major city, and you're interviewing him. And I guess the elephant in the room, the crime rate, specifically the homicide rate, he's made a statement, and that statement was the homicide rate is down 20% in the city. Now, why wouldn't you follow up after someone says that and you're interviewing them, and this is the mayor of the city, why wouldn't you follow up? How did you get that figure? 20% reduction in homicide. Where did the numbers come from? How did you figure that out? There would be some type of follow-up, and it looks like, I mean, this is the way I see it. They had the mayor of a major city and peep their whole card, showing the residents. I'm talking about you, C4. I'm talking about you, Clarence and Bryan, that they're carrying Slim Shady's water by not even asking him how he came up with a 20% reduction in homicide. This was lunacy. However, they did cherry pick the numbers of the BPD's closing rates of cases. They got into that, the 13%, the 40%. How did that happen? If you can hear the whole interview, go there and listen to it. I believe this is just another misdirection. You got BG&E sponsored with them, and BG&E, here we go, with Brandon and the deal with them, and then you get this another misdirection and distraction away from his campaign promise of 15% reduction in homicide every year, except this time you have the media hierarchy running cover by not asking the tough questions. They didn't ask any questions at all regarding the homicide rate. They stayed away from Slim Shady's Achilles heel, and that is the number 206. It's right here.
206.
206. His campaign promise of a reduction of homicide of 15% each year of his term. 3 strikes and you're out. It's a baseball analogy, but 3 strikes and you're out. 2023, that rate should be no higher than your promised campaign rate, and that is 206. He wants to do a do-over, a reset, to get the voters, to get you all the voters to forget his 15% promise for reduction in homicide each year. And Doc, I'm going to go over this real quick, and I want to hear from Doc Cheatham. In the year 2021, he missed the mark. He missed the 285 homicide mark by 19%, because it came in at 338 that was the homicide rate. Last year, 2022, he missed the 242 mark, because remember, folks, it's 15% reduction each year. So 2022 homicide mark should have been 242. He missed that mark by 26%. That's an increase of 7% for the prior year, because that came in at 330. He was over by 26%. Not a reduction, but an increase from his campaign promise. And what do you think about that, Don?
Well, I commend the Baltimore City Police Department and the mayor for some success last year in giving us what we have begged for the last 7 to 8 years, more police coverage in the Western District, because we are the Wild Wild West. We've averaged 7 or 8 years in a row with over 50 homicides a year. So last year, we thank you. We did get a significant reduction last year. But this is Doc Cheatham saying this on the Outsiders radio broadcast. I'm going to predict that by the beginning of July, you have the Western District going back into first place with the homicides. The reason I'm saying this, folks, I'm in the street every day. And 2 weeks ago, I had the Guardian Angels and a number of groups and individuals of all ethnicities walking through our neighborhood. And we were basically trying to outreach into our neighborhood and doing that entire walk. We had a marching band and everything. We did not see not one police car the entire time. Right now, we're in second place for homicides in Baltimore City. I think the one district is at 16, I think we are at 14, and then there's another district right behind us. But I'm saying, looking at the fact that we're not seeing police cars on a regular basis, we're going to go back to being the wild, wild west, that the Western District will go and take back over the homicides in Baltimore City. In Baltimore County, they scream and holler. They had 50 homicides for an entire year. Well, we had 50 homicides for just one area, the Western District. And I'm saying, you know, you can tell lies and use math figures or whatever the city council wants to use. But the fact that you're playing with numbers in there, you're trying to get numbers to tell the story of your improvements, but your improvements have been failures. You have failed us in Baltimore City. And I'm saying, city council, president, mayor, controller, we're going to look at you very closely at the end of this year. I don't think any of you are going to be able to pass a report card of what you did successfully for the last 4 years. There needs to be a recall of these people that are in office.
Something needs to be done, and you're right. There has to be a mechanism to remove those folks who are just simply failing the citizens of Baltimore City. And as far as this is concerned, the only number, as far as the homicide rate is concerned, the only number that matters is the final number for the year.
That's right.
That's the only number that matters. And it's a crazy rest of the spring, the summer, and the year. And these, this is what I'm going to call them, these cupcake movements by Slim Shady. These movements that he's making are looking real shaky and preventing him from getting strike 3 and further endangering the lives of the residents, workers, and visitors of Baltimore City. Brandon, strike 3. You had strike 1 in 2021 because you failed. You had strike 2 in 2022 because you failed. This is 2023, kid. Strike 3. 206 is the number. Now I'm going to go to our next clip. Okay, this time, Roc, this is you, not me. Our next clip, Roc, could you cut to, please?
Today, Baltimore residents organized a peace walk through Canton with Mayor Brandon Scott in attendance. It has been almost a week since the family directly appealed to him for accountability, and today he addressed the ongoing juvenile violence in Baltimore.
We cannot continue to allow families like this family to be feeling the pain that they are feeling in this heart, to lose their sons, their brothers, people to lose their friends over nothing. We all have to be committed to being better. We all have to be committed to seeking out justice.
Brandon Scott should be the one held accountable for these crimes because he's not doing enough to change the dynamic in Baltimore. He's holding press conferences instead of getting stuff done.
Did this, felt they could get away with it, and the reason why they felt they can get away with it because the mayor has failed to keep the city safe. Who's responsible for the 15% that he said that we would have a 15% reduction in homicides every year? Why now we haven't seen that. This is him. This is his failure to keep the city safe.
And lied to the people. He lied about protecting you from murderers. He lied about caring for you. As a matter of fact, let's get to the announcement. I'm going to make this announcement right now. And he's up for an Oscar at the next Academy Awards for the year's Best Male Performance nominee for his press conference performances after a tragic event. Baltimore's own Slim Shady Brandon Scott.
My name is Joe Biden. I've never won an Academy Award. Can't act worth a damn. Can't sing, can't dance. Can't do much of anything.
That's a segue I was going to use. And oh yes, Biden made this little announcement in regards to the Academy Awards earlier this week, because I know his people listen to the show, so that's okay. That's okay, President Biden, for lifting that. You can have it. Slim Shady's performance at the March for the Gonzalez family was not an award-winning performance. He looked like he did not want to be there. I know his people told him after they heard a few things on the Saturday show, and Marlo talked about how they used to march together, and I know how things work. They said, you need to go on this march. So he went on the march, and he looked like he did not want to be there with his little Under Armour shirt and those buggy whip arms at his side. Hey, Brandon, I got 2 words for you. Long sleeves. I'm looking at the video and thinking, somebody needs to give this guy a sandwich. Do a few curls, something for goodness sake. And oh my goodness, this is not a good look, not projecting strength. Quite on the contrary, the weak policies, and you got a weak mayor, crime coddling, twinkle toes, cupcake mayor for crime, and no wonder the crime keeps increasing and getting worse. If you're a criminal, I'm going to be straight up. If you're a criminal, you're a troublemaker on the streets, and you see this guy, and you go, you're definitely emboldened to continue, because he does not project strength in his policies and the killing, robbing, shooting, stealing. It's going on and on. It's getting ridiculous, and it's frankly getting on my nerves. Doc, what do you think? I know I'm going on and on and on.
No, you're hitting below the belt, which is good. But I really want to say this, and I'm not calling these groups out for any other particular reason other than the word is that you're getting money. And I'm saying, I call out my neighborhood because, that's where I live and that's where I hope to die. But Carver High School, Carver Vocational Technical Senior High School, is one of the schools, the 3 schools that have been identified to get special attention because of the violence and the guns that have gone into that school. Well, here's my call out. Safe Streets, where the hell are you? Ceasefire, where the hell are you? We Are Us, where the hell are you? I'm the president of the Neighborhood Association, the biggest in West Baltimore. And I'm saying it has now been 3 weeks that has been identified that there are 3 schools that have been identified that they have too many guns in their neighborhood. We have not seen you folks since that announcement was made. I'm going to call the names again. Safe Streets, where the hell are you? Ceasefire, where the hell are you? We Are Us, where the hell are you? And I know a number of you are getting paid in statements or whatever you want to call it, and you don't want people talking about you. I'm not talking about you in a negative sense. I'm just demanding that you cover the neighborhoods that the mayor and his people have said we need some coverage. And I'm saying, I don't see y'all walking through our neighborhoods. I don't see y'all at Eastwood Park, one of the biggest open-air drug markets in Baltimore City. Antonio Hayes doesn't want anything to happen there because he will be exposed of the drugs that are being sold in that park.
Well, Doc, you're telling it like it is, and where are you clowns? And yeah, I'll drop low every now and then. I'll do a Ric Flair. I'll drop low every now and then, and I'll do it to make a point. Yeah, buggy whip arms, whatever, armor are. But the bottom line is, yeah, sure, we have fun, make fun, but there are people dying on the streets. This Gonzalez kid's at work at T-Mobile, and he's getting shot by 18-year-old, 14-year-old. So, yeah, when the citizens of Baltimore City are being hurt and harmed by people, yeah, I will do a Ric Flair, and I will drop low.
John, let me say this. I've not heard not one elected official, be he or she, federal, city, or state, say this. I've been saying this every month at my Matthew Henson neighborhood community meetings since September. I think I am the only one that has said this, and I'm wondering why. And the comments that I'm making, these children are coming into our homes at the end of the day, and they're bringing in guns. These guns are in trash cans. They're not outside. They're in our homes, family. And why hasn't some elected official come out and said, family, we need you to check your clothes, the drawers, in your house where your children are, because these children are walking around Baltimore City with guns, and at the end of the day, those guns are in your houses. Why has there not been any elected official, federal, city, or state that has made this statement? These kids are mustering the guns. The guns are in our homes. And why hasn't anyone said anything about it?
No, why haven't they said anything about it? Maybe, see, this is what I'm talking about. This cupcake, twinkle toes way of handling things. Yes, parents, you should be looking in your house. You have illegal firearms in your home, and you're not checking them out. So we are going to stay on these issues, and Doc, because we got to move on. It's a hot hour, and we're loaded up. We're loaded up. Here, I want to go over some numbers. I was in the mortgage and finance industry. I have a business degree. Okay, I'm not some schmuck that walked out on the street. I've handled contracts. I've run companies. I've done all types of things when it comes to businesses. So here are the numbers, Slim Shady. Listen up, and everybody else listen up. Let's compare New York City to Baltimore. My wife's from New York. She's from Brooklyn. New York has a population of 8.46 million people. Their homicide rate was 418 for 2022. That's a per capita homicide rate of 1 for every 20,239 persons. That's per capita. Now let's look at Brandon Scott's Baltimore. Baltimore's population was 570,000 for 2022. Our homicide rate was 330 for 2022. That's a per cap, Doc. That's a per capita homicide rate of 1727, as opposed to over 20,000. Now, what I want to point out here is New York's 15 times larger in population than Baltimore. If New York had our per capita rate, then their homicide rate last year would have been 4,898 murders. That's what it would have been. Not 400, slightly over 400. It would have been 4,898 murders. You're talking about third world country, cities getting bombed type of numbers. And that's the craziness that's going on. What do you think about those numbers real quick, Doc, that I laid out?
About 10 years ago, I met with a group, and I served on the board of directors of a group called I Can't, We Can. Mm-hmm. And I had a homicide that happened at St. Gregory's Catholic Church right outside. Child got shot and killed. And we had a little rally outside. Maybe about 200 people were in a huge circle. It wasn't a small circle, it was a big circle. And the message that I gave them, I said, if we don't do something significantly to curtail the number of homicides, we're going to be back here again next year. But guess what? We're going to be standing here, and some of you aren't going to be with us because you may not be living anymore. And lo and behold, less than a year later, we were at that circle again at St. Gregory's. And I said, you know, I'm afraid to say this, but some of you were not in this circle last year, but you're in the circle this year. Did you not hear me say we're going to be in this circle whether we want it or not? You can do something about it now, or you can be forced to do something about it later. But guess what? Violence is going to knock on everybody's door. I don't care how great you think you are, what position you think you'll help. Anytime someone that is a great spokesperson for the Baltimore City Police Department and he loses his brother through crime and violence, it means that it's going to hit all of us. I've had my relatives that have been shot and killed, and it's going to hit all of us until we say enough is enough already. But right now, our elected officials think they are, they don't have to worry about what's happening because they live in nice little neighborhoods, and some of them, because they are elected officials, they have someone driving them around all day, and they don't come out late at night. You don't see them at late evening community meetings because most of them don't even come to community meetings. Folks, I'm saying, This thing is not going to turn around until each of us ask our own selves the question, what can I do to turn this thing around?
Exactly. What can you do? These coddled, politicians, elected people, they're coddled. You're going to seriously have to ask yourself that question. What are you going to do? Now, I want to get into, I've got to ask this question. What is with, and I'm going to go there, what is with this KKK funeral having, dark shades wearing, stumbling, bumbling, fumbling, rambling renegade of a president, want to be cool, shell company, family making? For you who don't know, I'll just real quick. A shell corporation is a corporation without active business operations or significant assets. These types of corporations are not all necessarily illegal, but they are sometimes used illegitimately, and you've got 18, 15, 20, 30 shell corporate. I don't know what's going on with the Biden family. This is an ongoing story, and we'll continue to look at it. But what I want to talk about, other than this CNN town hall with Trump, I mean, they are upset with Trump. And he got pinched for $5 million by this lady that said they did something in the closet. But what I want to talk about, seriously, let's get to the Biden boy comments, and pro wrestler and NWA champ Tyrus and Harris Faulkner and the Hodge twins as well. I'll have them in this, but all black folk have something to say about this boy gaffes. He keeps doing this. Rock, cut 3, please.
Good point for you. President Biden raising some eyebrows with this from an event that marked the Muslim holiday Eid al-Fitr.
Thank you for serving. I'm not kidding. You want to come and make a speech? Hush up, boy. Hush up, boy. As my mother would say.
Oh, he blamed that racist trope on his mom.
Or was it his Puerto Rican mom, or was it his white mom? We got to make sure we got the right one, because he was raised by different factions. He could get confused.
Depending on which audience.
Yeah.
So it's not the first time that he's spoken that way. Here's another example. You may remember.
I'm here with my senior advisor and boy who knows Louisiana very, very well, man, in New Orleans, and Cedric Kushner.
When the President of the United States addresses you, unless you're an actual 3-year-old little boy, you should probably give your name and be mentioned as man. Being called a boy by anyone at any time is unacceptable, especially for the leader. But I understand if he didn't remember his name. But we've accepted this. Well, I haven't, but the mainstream media has accepted this, because if President Trump or anyone, Mitt Romney, anyone,
if anybody else,
ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy this boy Tyrus is here today to talk.
Yeah.
We would have a misunderstanding in that building.
I guess he was congratulating a new black mayor they got. And if you didn't see this train wreck coming, I mean, where had you been? I knew Joe Biden announcing something about a black man. He's going to mess all this up. He's going to say something stupid. Yeah, here he goes. I mean, the guy is a walking meme, man. He is. Check it out.
You got a hell of a new governor in Westmore, I tell you. He's the real deal. The boy looks like he can still play.
You were called the first black governor, boy? What says the governor? Who cares? But it's baseball. They say boy all the time. Boy, that boy's got a quick stick on him. Boy, that nigga can fly. That boy's got a cannon for him. That boy's got a cannon. They say it all the time, so that's where it comes from. But you know for a fact, right? And this is irrefutable, right? If that was Trump, they'd have made it about race.
Yeah. What is going on with good old boy, oops, did I say that? Joe Biden. What is going on with him?
Well, I think he's gotten very comfortable with the Democratic Party that put him into office. They have not held his feet to the fire, and I'm not going to give him a pass on these two issues. And that is the George Floyd bill and the John Lewis bill. We have now gone into the third year where neither one of those bills have gone anywhere. And the Democratic Party refuses to address this with this particular governor. And I'm saying, I don't know how any black person who was strongly supporting Biden and the issues that most of us put on the list, the John Lewis bill and the George Floyd bill, were both put on the top of everybody's list. How do we go now 3 years of this president being in office and he hasn't come close to getting passes of either one of these issues? And I'm saying, you know, we black folks sometimes probably need to be called bored because we keep going along to get along. Folks, we got to stop playing softball when the game is hardball. You know, we got to really start calling it for what we see. Anytime a white man keeps calling you a boy, that should be a message to you.
Well, hey, I've got one more clip. Rock cut 4.
That's what Fox News is doing. Yeah, because they have a narrative to push, and CNN's got a narrative to push. Yeah. Well, kind of in a way, because Joe Biden, he said apologize. He said he actually apologized. Yeah, because he don't want to get rid of the black vote, man. Well, you can't. If you Democrats, it's impossible to lose that black vote. You got to come out with a damn KKK guy. You come out with a damn. You can come, man. You can come out with a damn Klan outfit and still get the black. You just want equality. You just want the American dream. But the only way you're gonna get it is if you vote for me. If you don't, you're screwed. You're the other side of white supremacy. Even Joe Biden said it. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Come to New York, BP Biden. I will. It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
God, you're not really black if you don't vote for him. Biden said that. I mean, he only sees us, people of color. He tells us what he sees.
Yeah,
he puts a bolo out for us. I'm looking for a black woman for this job. Be on the lookout for her. Come on, he's got to start to clean this up. And the fact that many in the mainstream media don't put pressure on him, they are fomenting this bigotry. It's not acceptable.
No, it's not acceptable.
None of the above.
No, it's not acceptable. I mean, I don't think this kind of talk from Biden is going to raise his tanking 37% approval numbers, and he's tanking on his numbers with the black community. He was at 90% approval with the black community. Now he's hovering in the mid-50% range. That is horrific. I mean, wow, that's a huge drop from your base. And we're going to move on because this we're so loaded. We got to move on because Doc and Roc, I got the Doc and Roc connection. Roc's here this week, Doc's here this week. And you've got to hear, this is the tribute to Shantay Jackson. Roc cut 5, please.
Controversy surrounding the Bud Light brand.
We've been hearing a lot about this one today. Some bars are now refusing to serve Anheuser-Busch's #1 beer. Backlash from conservatives who boycotted the beer. But now the LGBTQ plus community is upset about the way the companies responded.
They essentially gave the people who are spewing hate a platform to claim a win.
Mark Robertson is the co-owner of Two Bears Tavern Group. They own 4 LGBTQ plus friendly bars on the north side and have pulled all Anheuser-Busch products from their shelves.
Customers are majority LGBTQ. We are not interested in supporting anybody, whether it be a for-profit or nonprofit, that does not support us.
Yes, we reveal how Bud Light's disastrous partnership with social media influencer Dylan Mulvaney has left them struggling to sell beer even at jaw-dropping discounts. Find out how this once-loved brand has become the laughingstock of the beer industry and why American consumers are turning their backs on Bud Light. With cases piling up in stores, you won't believe the shocking discounts they're offering to try to win back customers. Don't miss this exclusive report on the blunder that could cost Bud Light its place in the market.
I'm going to touch on this just for a minute. because I was put this in. I said, nah, I've got to touch on it because you're talking billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that Anheuser-Busch is losing because of this Dylan Mulvaney thing and the guy on the can, and he's dressed like Audrey Hepburn and all this going on. Doc, quick, what did you think was going to come of this?
I kind of had a loss. I didn't believe it when I first heard it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm saying, golly gee,
what is going on?
Things have gotten that so publicized. Yeah, even businesses, they're being exposed. You know, we have so much publicity in all areas that you can say something today and 5 seconds later somebody's got it. And I'm saying, Anheuser-Busch got caught with your pants down.
Wow, I mean, they've got a nickname for Anheuser-Busch, and these are the guys out here, and they're calling them Tranheuser-Busch. That's the nickname. That's the going nickname that the guys, if you will, are calling Anheuser-Busch, because they're saying, you know what, enough's enough. Sometimes people, you can't just keep pushing stuff on people. They'll push back. So now, I want to get to the tribute. We have a special tribute for Shantay Jackson. Okay, Rock, you can cut 5 now.
Since implementation of the strategy in January of this year, the Western District has seen a 31% decrease in non-fatal shootings and a 36% decrease in homicides year-over-year, for an aggregate decrease in gun violence of 33.8%. This means that the district has gone from being the most violent district in our city as it relates to gun violence to the least violent among other historically iconic violent districts, including the Eastern, the Southern, and the Southwestern. As of December 6th, the program has conducted 132 custom notification referrals. That's where Baltimoreans who've been identified as being at risk of perpetrating.
Now, here's the reason Shantay, that's our little tribute to Shantay. Sideshow Bob, they wheel out MONSE, they wheel out the sideshow while she got canned. Jeez, I keep saying, I'm sorry. I mean, she left a $223,000 a year job, way too high overpaid salaried gig, out of nowhere, from left field, and even after 2+ years of Fox News reporting, here's the real reason, and I'm going to pull this up, because there was a little chat we had last week, and here's the real reason why Shantay and the mayor tapped out.
So, in regards to this Safe Streets program and your program, and how, I guess you spoke with Shantay Jackson in regards to getting your program in to help the citizens of Baltimore City to help reduce the homicide and violence rate. How did that conversation go there? Well, I actually watched the Fox 45 News and seen the article or the episode that they were doing in regards to the $5 million that was put into the programs, or the 45 programs, or the 44 actually programs. I was trying to see how Freedom African Celebrated Offenders could be a part of the 44 and become the 45th program to be a part of the $5 million that has been allocated to, I believe it was Life Bridge being one, Catholic Charities, and Safe Streets being another. conversation like between her and individually, but it was over social media.
Okay. So your organization has been around for a long time.
Correct.
Okay, how long have your organization been around?
We've been around for 20 consecutive years.
Okay, so you have an organization that's been around for 20 consecutive years, and you've done a lot of work in the community. I'm trying to figure out, as a manager, as a professional, as a businessman, I'm looking at who's going to be a part of a planned project, which I have. In this case, it's this MONSE Street program, which is another mechanism that the mayor has at his disposal to use in order to keep his campaign promise of the 15% homicide reduction each year of his term. So if I'm making a campaign promise of that magnitude, I want to have the most effective organizations of people in my toolbox to use to do that. So it baffles me that you aren't at the head of something like this and implementing it and getting your advice. Have you gone to them to try to or attempt to give your advice?
I've reached out several times, several encounters. We had passing different events and town hall meetings, and all of these meets and greets to give out business cards with a whole bunch of rhetoric to state that we will be a part of the equation. That has not happened. I have a relationship with the mayor now, Brandon Scott, when he was a part of the 300-man march movement way before these organizations, being woman, We Are Us movement came into fruition. So we have some history of street credibility before he even became mayor. So he was well known and well aware of the FACE program even before he got into the term of the position that he is in now. So 20 consecutive years, even worked on with Safe Street as well as these other organizations who are getting the funding. So it behooves me to think that they do not know of the FACE organization, even to Senator Hayes, being in a 21217 zip code, is still doing phenomenal work there without their support. So
I can go on. It was a 12-minute interview, and for those who have YouTube, you can go on to YouTube and watch the show last week, get the full interview, because we're getting ready to end. But Doc,
I got one quick comment, and I'm broad brushing this as best I can. I've done more work than any individual dealing with voting rights for former felons. I've probably spent the last 30 years getting laws passed in the state of Maryland to give former felons the right to vote. And I want to say I'm very disenchanted with the overwhelming majority of the organizations that are set up to help former felons. And for the most part, I'm looking at the data coming to the Board of Elections for Baltimore City, and most of you have done little, if anything, in getting former felons to get back on the voter registration. I'm not pointing at anyone. I'm just broad brushing all of you. You need to do more and better. It took us 20 years to get former felons the right to vote. We went to court. We went to Annapolis. We went to just about everywhere. It took us almost 20 years to get former felons the right to vote. And most of you organizations are getting funding. We see you on Facebook. We see you on the internet. But I don't see your names, registered voters, down at the Board of Elections, and I'm very disenchanted.
Well, let's start registering those voters. Let's get that done. I understand where you're coming from with that, Doc. But I believe with the outsiders that interview was the last straw. And I noticed that Brandon was in a march the next day after the show when Marlo talked about the two of them in marches. And had he marched for any other homicide victim in Baltimore City since he's been mayor? Has he been on a march?
There have been two major marches in the last few years. One was the march that went from Hilton to Milton. Yes, they marched. That was when the 300 men, or whatever they called them, they marched from one side of North Avenue to the other. I didn't see a damn thing that came about. And then the other march was the ministers left New Shiloh Church. They walked all around my neighborhood, the neighborhood that got hit the most by the Freddie Gray riots, and y'all all went down to Penn North, and you all celebrated like it was a celebration. But we just lost one of our residents, and all y'all are doing, thanks to the poor leadership of Antonio Hayes, everybody's got money except for the communities that got negatively affected the most. I'm saying, folks, most of you that are getting funding have sold your own people out.
I concur. I agree fully. And this has been another episode of The Outsiders. We are going to keep an eye on things because the outsiders are the true studs of radio media. And on that note, Doc, thanks for a great show, having my co-host here, the Roc and Doc Connection, again here. And
Doc, I like that.
Everyone, take care. Happy Mother's Day. Enjoy all. God bless.
That's